بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله مالك الملك مجري الفلق مسخر الرياح فالق الإصباح ديان الدين رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على مذكر المبشر البشير النذير السراج المنير أبي القاسم محمد وعلى آل رسوله المختار الأبرار والأتحار، سيما على حسين المظلوم المقتول المذبوح من القفا في يوم عاشوراء في أرض كربلاء بلا جرم ولا خطايا، الذي غسله دمعه وكفنه رمال كربلاء. يا ليتنا كنا معك فنفوز فوزا عظيما. قال الله الحكيم في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بقية الله خير لكم إن كنتم مؤمنين. صلوات. The Sheikh entered into the printers with his manuscript, and he takes the manuscript to the man who was standing behind the desk at the printers. He says, I want this book to be printed. The man says, okay, fine. After a while, however, the Sheikh suddenly has a very peculiar look on his face. He looks worried and concerned. He grabs the manuscript, he walks steadily outside of the door, outside of the printers, and is seen 1 year later. 1 year later, he enters into that same shop, into that same printers. He gives the manuscript to that same man and says, now I'm ready. That man says, Ya Sheikh, last year you came to me with this manuscript saying that you wanted it to be printed. What happened to you for 1 whole year? He replied that this book is a book of du'as, this book is a book of supplication. I realized that how can I print this book when I have not done every single supplication in this book myself? And so it took me 1 whole year to do every single supplication in this book, and now it is ready to be printed. That book is none other than Mafatihul Jinan, which is in every single one of our houses, and that Sheikh is none other than Sheikh Abbas Qummi. Sheikh Abbas Qummi, for some reason we've mentioned him more than once in our series of lectures. I think this is the 3rd or 4th time we're mentioning him. He's come up for some reason or the other. When you look at the life of Sheikh Abbas Qummi, you will find that Sheikh Abbas Qummi, within his life, ensured that there was sincerity in every single action that took place. Whether it was him praying, whether it was him researching, teaching, whatever, he ensured that there was khulus in his life. For when he was writing this book, Mafatihul Janan, people came to him. Sheikh Abbas Qummi is such a great scholar. He was a mujtahid. People came to him. Ya Sheikh Abbas, Ya Ayatullah, Ya Agha, why is it that you are writing a book on du'as? Write a book on Kifaya. Write a book on Rasail. Write a book on Makasib. These are top books in the seminary. Small kids cannot read these books. These are books for big ulama. These big ulama told him, write a commentary on Makasib. Write a commentary on Rasail. He said no. For I am writing this book on dua, and I am giving the thawab to Sayyida Fatimah al-Zahra salamullahi alayha. He says, it doesn't matter. I've started writing this and I'm writing it with sincerity. Whether anyone cares or not, I'm writing it. And when he completed this book, Mafatihul Janan, he thought no one's going to read it. He thought it's absolute rubbish. However, till today you find every single person has either heard of Mafatihul Janan, either heard of Sheikh Abbas Qumi, who has this book in their house. And you found the Sheikh was very pious. His iman was very strong. For example, big ulama would come to him. One man comes, one scholar. He says, Ya Sheikh, I have an illness. I have some sort of disease. My leg has a very bad wound. Can you pray with your mouth? Can you do a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Maybe He'll accept. The Shaykh, with all honesty, would we do this with all honesty? He says, look, I have committed sins with this mouth. Therefore, I will not do a dua for you from this mouth. However, these hands of mine have spent their whole life writing narrations of the Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam. Therefore, I'll use this hand of mine. The scholar says, go on. He takes his hand, he touches the leg of that scholar, that scholar's leg is healed, and he walks out normally. This is Sheikh Abbas Qummi. Now, the first of our lectures of the series, which was on Sunday, I think, was on Shatita, was on Imam Mehdi Ajjallahu Ta'ala Farajah al-Sharif. Not only was our first lecture on the Imam, yesterday our fifth lecture was on the Imam, and today our sixth lecture is also on the Imam. So out of the 12 lectures, 3 out of 12, in other words, 1/4 of our lectures have been dedicated to the Imam of our time. There is a narration I want to mention and decipher and look through, found in this Mafatihul Janan, known as the narration of Ali al-Baghdadi. Ali al-Baghdadi, you'll find this narration in the section with regards to visiting the shrines of Imamain al-Jawadain, salamullahi alayhima. In this section, you'll find a very long hadith. For remember, Sheikh Abbas Qummi, not only did he compile the book, he wrote commentaries. He gathered narrations with regards to each topic. Ali al-Baghdadi, Haj Ali al-Baghdadi, his story is very interesting. His story tells us that he had some sort of business in Najaf. He had a warehouse, he had laborers, he had workers under him. And Haj Ali al-Baghdadi, he had khums money to give. He had 80 tomans of khums money to give. He traveled from Najaf to Baghdad. It was a Thursday. Maybe we should have done this lecture yesterday. However, it didn't come to me, so we're doing it today. It doesn't matter. It was a Thursday night. Sheikh Haj Ali Baghdadi, he travels from Najaf to Baghdad. The first thing he does is he goes to visit the two Imams. As we know, Kadhimain today is a suburb of Baghdad. And unfortunately, we as individuals, we as the Shia Muslims gave importance to some ziyarat but forgot others. We gave importance to Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi ziyarah, and there's nothing more important than the ziyarah of Imam Hussein. For the Imam alayhi wasalam themselves would say that when you go and visit our grandfather Hussein, mention our names. They themselves would say the ziyarah of Imam Hussein is better than any other ziyarah. However, we also give importance to the other ziyarat. For example, Samarra. In Samarra, your Imam was born. In Samarra, you find the Sardab, the seller. In Kadhimain, 2 Imams are present. So, Ali al-Baghdadi, the first thing he does when he gets to Baghdad, and I've mentioned about the foundation of Baghdad in one of our lectures, he gets to Baghdad and he visits the Imam. He visits the 2 Imams. Then, he gives 20 tuman to one scholar, 20 tuman to another scholar, 20 tuman to a third scholar. So he's given 60 tumans in total. How many left? 20. He has decided that I will give 20 tumans to a scholar by the name of Sheikh Hassan Araqi, Sheikh Muhammad Hassan, with regards to khums. Now, in the first day, we spoke about khums. Today I'm speaking about khums. Please, no one think that Shabbar Mehdi is talking about khums because he wants khums, or because he wants you to give him khums. No. I'm talking about khums only because it's come up. And khums, you find that there are many misconceptions we find with regards to khums. I don't want khums from you. I want 2 things from you. Every single person here, I want 2 things from you. Now, some of you are scared that you won't come tomorrow because Shabbar Mehdi wants something from you. The first thing I want is your attentiveness. And mashallah, you're very attentive. The second thing I want is that you recite very loud salawats. This issue of khums. Now, Ali al-Baghdadi, he leaves Najaf, he's in Baghdad, he wants to give his khums. At that time, you could give your khums to more than one scholar. Of course, the routine here is to give it to one reliable scholar who has ijazah of your marja. Ali al-Baghdadi, when he gives khums, we understand something from khums primarily. There are many misconceptions involved with regards to khums. And we as individuals have not understood the philosophy behind this practice. For we understand the philosophy of khums is very important. I'll give you an example. A story occurred in India some years ago where there was a scholar reciting in one of the cities and a businessman came up to him. This businessman says, look, I have a warehouse, a workshop of wood, pine, oak, whatever. And one day in the city there was a whole street filled with different workshops with regards to the wood industry. In other words, there was one whole market of wood workshops and warehouses. I got a phone call. Salamu alaikum. Wa alaikum salam. There has been a fire in the whole market. Now imagine a fire in the wood market is very dangerous. There were a few other people with me who also had warehouses, who also had workshops. And they were very, in a state of panic, they were very worried. However, I relaxed, I ate, I showered, I put on nice clothes, I put on a tie, whatever. They were thinking, aren't you worried about your stock? Because they were also worried. I said, look, I have a special type of insurance, which is why I know that my stock will remain untouched. They said, we also have insurance. We have also done insurance. He said, no, your insurance isn't like mine. So he gets to this place. He goes to the market. He sees there that the fire has spread all over the market. When he gets to his warehouse, this is a true story. When he gets to his warehouse, he realizes that the fire has just stopped and just touched his stock. He realizes that 5% of his stock has been burnt. He tells the scholar, Ya Maulana, O scholar, I realize that the reason why 5% of my stock was burnt was because I may have had a miscalculation in my khums. Otherwise, I realized that once I gave khums, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was going to protect my rizq and sustenance. They were surprised that khums has such a great power. Khums is benefiting us because it allows Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to descend His blessings onto us and our family. And you find one of the things that people object with regards to khums is, as we know, khums, we have sahmain, 2 parts. Number 1, sahma imam. Number 2, sahma sadat. You can read it in books of fiqh. This isn't a fiqh lesson. You can find it. I'm sure you know it already. Sahma imam, sahma sadat. Sahma imam, it is of course the part that is used for the imam with regards to orphanages, mosques, seminaries, etc. The second part is given to those sayyids who are poor, and there are conditions within that. People ask the question, Sahma Sadat, why only to the Sayyids? Is this not unfair? The Quran says, إِنَّا خَلَقْنَاكُم مِّن ذَكْرٍ وَأُنثَى وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُم عِندَ اللَّهِ يَتْقَاكُمْ. That we created you in tribes, we gave you tongues, different races. The only way you are different is because of your taqwa. So why is it that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says khums can only be given to Sadat, Sayyids? People have this accusation. The answer we reply is very simple. If you look at fiqh, zakat, we give zakat. Number 1, we give zakat on the day of Eid. Number 2, we give zakat when if we have farmland, etc. That zakat can only be given to non-sayyids. And this khums can only be given to sayyids. In this way, it balances the two out, and you find there is a balance in the way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has brought down His sharia. The second thing that people speak about with regards to khums is, why is it our Sunni brothers don't give khums? Till today, if you ask them and you tell them that within the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَأْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّا لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ وَلِلرَّسُولِ وَلِذِي الْقُرْبَى وَالْيَتَامَى وَالْمَسَاكِينِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. Every single person in this room should at least know what surah and what ayah is the ayah of khums. It is surah 8, verse 41. Easy to remember. The first ayah of the 10th juz, the 10th separah, is the ayah of khums. We ask the question to these individuals, these Sunni brothers that don't give khums, why is it you don't give khums when the order of khums is in the Quran? The reply they give is that according to their fiqh, according to their view, khums was only mandated for the time of the Prophet. And after that it changed. Now, I'm going to get a bit technical for 1 minute. The rest of the majlis is easy, just 1 minute of technicality. That there is a concept known as naskh. Naskh means that when we have one law, it can only be changed if there is another law abrogating the other one. I'll give you an example. We as individuals, why do we not pray to Baytul Maqdas? Because there's a hadith, halalu Muhammadin halal ila yawm al-qiyamah. Haramu Muhammadin haram ila yawm al-qiyamah. What the Prophet made haram is haram till today. What he made halal is halal till today. What he made wajib till today. So why is it that we do not pray towards Baytul Maqdis? The answer is simple. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down the ayah, فَوَلِّي وَجْهَكَ شَطْرَ الْمَسْجِدِ الْحَرَامِ. Turn your faces towards Masjid al-Haram. This was abrogation. That this ayah caused a change of the other law. We believe that there has been no abrogation of the ayah of khums, which is why we give khums till today. Ali al-Baghdadi, inshallah that made sense. Ali al-Baghdadi, he came with his khums. He comes to Sheikh Muhammad Hassan. He has 20 tuman of khums to give. He doesn't have all of it. He comes to Sheikh Hassan. He says, Ya Sheikh, I have part of the 20. I'll give you, let's say, 16. Then I'll sell some merchandise. When I get the money, I'll pay you. He says, okay. It was a Thursday night. He says, the Sheikh says, Ali al-Baghdadi, Haj Ali, are you going back home? He says, yes, I'm going back home. He says, why? It's Thursday night. Go to your imam. Your 2 imams are here. Why are you going back home? He says, look, as we know in the Arab world and in Iran, Thursday night is like Friday night. Because Thursday night initiates the weekend. Because Friday is Jumu'ah, Saturday is another day of weekend, and Sunday is their Monday. And so on Thursday night, the employers would pay the employees. Haj Ali says, I have to go back home, and I need to pay my laborers because it's Thursday night. He says, okay, fine. As he is going, he says, I completed 1/3 of my journey back to Najaf when I met someone. And there is no surprise to me, and you who that someone was. It was the Imam of our time, Ajil Allahu Ta'ala Farajah Sharif. And if you look out through the whole of this story, the Imam gives him many indications that I am your Imam. However, he does not realize. The Imam tells him in many ways, but he doesn't realize. He says, I was walking back. I completed 1/3 of my journey when I saw a beautiful Sayyid. He had a green turban and he had a mole on his face. Yesterday we spoke about recognition of the Imam. When you look at all of the narrations, you'll find that the Imam has a certain mole, a birthmark on his face. And usually many people have seen him wearing this green turban. He bumps into the Sayyid. Salamu alaykum Sayyid. Wa alaykum as-salam. What does he say? Wa alaykum as-salam, Ya Haj Ali Baghdadi. They've never met before. He's saying, Ya Haj Ali Baghdadi. Ali Baghdadi says, Wa alaykum as-salam. They begin walking, they kiss each other, they hug each other. The Sayyid says, the Imam says, where are you going? He says, I'm going back home. He says, no. Come to Qadhibain, your 2 Imams are there. He says, okay, I'll join you. He was in so much awe of the presence of this man. He says, I'll join you. They began walking. This Sayyid, the Imam, was constantly referring to Ali Baghdadi by his name. So Haj Ali says, Ya Sayyid, how do you know my name? The Imam gives him many indications who I am. He still doesn't understand it. He says, how do you know my name? He says, you gave khums to my representative. Will the receiver not know the sender? In other words, you are the giver, I am the receiver. Will I not know who you are? He says, what do you mean? He says, you gave your money to my representative. Yet still, it doesn't click with him. He doesn't put 2 and 2 together. Another point we take from this story is that the Imam mentions the fuqaha, the jurist, as his representative. I usually mention this ahadith, and it's a famous ahadith. It's the hadith of taqleed and ijtihad. It is mentioned both by our 11th and 12th Imam. It's man kana min al-fuqaha, sa'inan li nafsi, hafidhan li dini, mukhalifan an al-hawa, muti'an li amri mawla, falil awami an yuqallidu. If anyone asks you, can you prove taqleed? Tell them, this is the hadith. Man kana min al-fuqaha, those of the fuqaha, those of the jurists. Sa'inan li nafsi, control their nafs. Hafidhan li dini, have preserved the religion in their life. Mukhalifan an al-hawa, they are against all of their desires. Muti'an li'amri mawla. They are obedient to their master. Who's their master? Allah and the Ahlul Bayt. فَلِلْ أَوَامِّ أَن يُقَلِّدُوا. It is for the general public to then do taqleed of them. The mujtahideen and the maraja, in actual fact, the representatives of the Imam. And this is what the Imam says. The Imam tells Ali al-Baghdadi, you gave money to my representative. As they are walking, Ali al-Baghdadi mentions, Haj Ali, he says that I saw suddenly that there was a beautiful stream flowing. And there were fruits. And these fruits weren't like the fruits that should be found in this time of year. Beautiful fruits and treats. I was walking with this man. My left hand was in his right hand. We were walking. I realized this person is someone very clever, very intelligent, looked like a big alim. So I said, can I ask you some questions? I urge every single one of you, when you go home today, if you have Mafatihul Jinan, look at this whole narration. I'm going to give bits of it, because it's a long narration. He asks many questions. I'm going to tell you of 3 of the questions, and we are going to derive and extract many different points from these 3 questions. The first question is beautiful. He says, Ya Sayyid. The Imam has given him many indications who I am. He still hasn't realized. He says, Ya Sayyid. There was one tutor, one sheikh, one alim, one teacher who had said that if there is an individual, now there are 2 types of hadith, one is famous, one is similar but is a bit different. The one that's a bit different is mentioned in this hadith. If there is an individual who has done 40 umrah, 40 hajj, he spends all of his day in fasting, all of his night in salatul layl, and he is killed between Safa and Marwa. This sheikh said that individual's ibadah will not be accepted if he does not have wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib in his heart. Allahumma sallu ala. He says, Ya Sayyid, is this true? Some people have the same question today. Is that true? The Imam replies, of course it's true. Any individual who does not have the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen in their hearts, their a'mal is not accepted. Now, let me give you a very good example, because there is proof of every single statement of the Imam. Proof number 1. Amir al-Mu'mineen, he had finished his Salatul Layl in his house, and he left. He was going towards Masjid Kufa to lead the prayers of Fajr. Following him was the great companion Qambar. Qambar was one of the true Sahabi and followers of the Imam. If you want to know how to become a Shia, understand Qambar. In fact, there is a line of poetry. It's in another language, I'll tell you it in English, that you have been unable to understand the status of Qambar. How will you understand the status of Ali ibn Abi Talib? That Qambar is so great, how can you understand Amir al-Mu'mineen? Amir al-Mu'mineen is walking, behind him is Qambar. They are going to where? Masjid Kufa. I've mentioned about Masjid Kufa before. You all know about Masjid Kufa. They're walking when suddenly they see a house. This house, from it resonating, was someone's beautiful voice. There was a qari reciting beautiful Quran. Qambar realized that this person has recently moved into Kufa. He's new. No one knows him. And his voice was beautiful. Qambar in his mind was going that maybe I should stay here just to listen to this voice. Because when we hear a beautiful voice of Quran, we want to stay. It shakes our hearts. We understand the beautiful words of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Qambar was thinking, if only my Imam would stop for a bit so we could listen. Now the Imam, Qambar hasn't said anything, he's thought it. The Imam turned around and says, Qambar, that individual's Quran recitation is not going to help him even one bit. Qambar's thinking, how does my Imam know? He's never seen him. This guy's new, he has a beautiful voice. But anyway, he accepted what Imam said, that this individual's Quranic recitation is not going to benefit him in any single way. And we went. We went into Masjid Kufa. In Masjid Kufa, the Imam did the adhan, and it was beautiful. Then the Imam led the prayers. After the Imam led the prayers, many individuals were hugging him, were asking him questions, masail of fiqh, etc. I thought this is the best opportunity for me to ask about that man. As in, how did you know, Ya Imam, about that man? But I saw that my Imam is busy. Many individuals are asking questions, etc. So what did I do? I went back and I said, I'll come back. I thought I'll come back. I'll go and see that man. As he left, he saw that from coming into the house was that same man. So we quickly stopped him. Haji, whatever, Sayyid, etc. Agha, can I ask you a question? He says, yes. Because I know you're new. He says, yes, you can ask a question. He said, do you believe in the oneness of God? He says, yes, of course, I believe that there is only one God. Qambar's thinking, first one is check. Number 2, do you believe in the prophethood of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam? He said, yes, check. The third and most important one. He said, do you believe in the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib? He says, Ali, he's a man like you and me. So, no. Qambar says, okay, I know the answer. I know why Imam said what he said. Now Qambar, he's coming back into Masjid Kufa. He's far away from the door. The Imam is standing inside. From far away, the Imam says, Qambar, did you get your answer? Qambar says, yes, I got my answer, Ya Mawla. I understood my answer. Let me say one thing. If you understand it, you understand it. If you don't understand it, I can't do anything about it. If recitation of the Quran is not accepted when wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib is not in your heart, how can compilation of Quran be accepted when wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib is not in your heart? Now go and find who said that I compiled the Quran, and find whether that individual loved Ali ibn Abi Talib or not. So, Qambar, he goes up to Imam Ali. He says, Ya Imam, how did you know? I'm still confused. I realized that the reason why his Quranic recitation was not accepted was because he did not have your wilayah. But how did you know? Listen to the reply of the Imam. Understand who your Imam is. And once you understand the first, you'll understand the second, the third, the fourth, the fifth, all the way to the 12th. Because real wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen is actually the wilayah of all 14 infallibles. He says, how did you know, Ya Imam? The Imam says, in Alam of Arwah, as we know, before we were in this world, we went Alam Arwah. We were in the land of the souls. I'm sure many of you met each other in the land of the souls. You spoke, you had Khoja Chai, I'm sure, in the land of the souls. So the Imam was there. He says, in the land of the souls, we were there. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called out, there was a voice. Which one of you souls believes in me to be the one deity? Listen to the reply. Listen to what Amir al-Mu'mineen says. He says, which one of you souls believe in me, Allah, to be the sole deity? Amir al-Mu'mineen says, many said, we do. The voice of those souls I can still hear in my ears. Says number 2, Allah said, which one of these souls believes in the Risalah of my Prophet? He says, many said they do. Ali says, I can still hear the voice of those souls in my ear. The third, which one of you believes in the wilayah of Ali ibn Abi Talib? Many did. Ali ibn Abi Talib says, when I went past, I heard his voice of Quran. I did not recognize it from the third. So I realized wilayah of me is not found within his heart. The first question which was asked by Ali al-Baghdadi to the Imam is about wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen. Because he was confused. We understand once we have wilayah in our heart, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cherishes us. He showers us with his blessings. Now, the second question, as they were going along, he says, Ya Sayyid. Again, he doesn't know who this person is. He just thinks it's a great alim. He says, Ya Sayyid. There was a man by the name of Salman, and he was asked about visitation of the shrine of Imam Hussein salamullahi alayhi. And he was asked about this practice. He replied that this practice is bid'ah. Still today you find many individuals, this practice is bid'ah. And on the night of Arba'in, we're going to look at the whole practice. We're going to mention, inshallah, Sheikh Hilli's story, inshallah, Ayatollah Mar Rashid Najafi's story as well. With regards to visitation of Imam Hussein, salamullah alayhi. So, he says, this Sulaiman, he said, it's bid'ah. Then when he went to sleep, he saw a dream. In his dream, he saw that there is a camel on which there is a litter. You know, in the camel you have the seat and it's covered. He asked someone, who's on the camel? He was told there are 2 individuals. One is Sayyidah Khadija, one is Sayyidah Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alayhima. He said, where are they going? The reply said, they are going to visit Imam Hussein as it is Thursday night. And this Sulaiman saw that from this camel they were throwing certain letters on the floor. That letter said, if you visit Imam Hussein, the fire of hell will not touch you. So Ali al-Baghdadi, he's saying, Ya Sayyid, is this true? The narration says our Imam was crying at this time. Our Imam was crying at this time and saying, of course it's true. For there is nothing better than the visitation of Imam Hussein. 4. As I mentioned to you yesterday about the great maqam of Thursday night, there are narrations which say all 124,000 prophets are in Karbala on Thursday night. There are also narrations which say, whichever individual wants to shake hands with every single prophet should go to Karbala and the shrine of Imam Hussein on the 15th of Shabbar. Now let me say something. All of the prophets come to visit Imam Hussein. Imam Hussein goes to visit Abu al-Fadl Abbas. Because yes, we understood the maqam of visiting the shrine of Imam Hussein, but we did not understand the maqam of visiting the shrine of Hazrat Abbas. And people are still confused. Who do I go to first? There is a story mentioned about a poet. Now, poets, I'm not going to attack poets. I love poetry for Ahlul Bayt alayhim wassalam, but there is one habit of some poets, that they get sudden excitement and they write a lot. They see the shrine of Imam Hussein, they start writing. Now, there is a principle in poetry that once you write, you must get your poetry checked by one other person. Whether it's an alim or someone who is an expert. Because there have been many individuals that haven't checked their poetry, they've read it, and people have think, what is he reciting? He's reciting rubbish. He's dishonored the Ahlul Bayt, for example. There was this one poet. Suddenly he had this emotional excitement. He wrote about Abu al-Fadl Abbas. He wrote so much. He was in so much excitement. He was intoxicated in the love of Abu al-Fadl Abbas salamullah alayhi. Afterwards, he looked through his poem. And he realized that the first line is wrong. Because the first line was saying that, oh, Hussein, you were asking help from Abbas on the day of Ashura. And you required Abbas for help. You are mustajab of his help. According to this poet, he thought this is dishonoring Imam Hussein. So he said, I will not recite this poem in front of anyone. That night he goes to sleep. When he goes to sleep, he sees that he is going towards the shrine of Imam Hussein, and he feels like he's flying. What better feeling is there than going towards the shrine of Imam Hussein? He feels like he's flying. He's going towards the shrine of Imam Hussein. As he goes, he enters into the shrine. It's a Thursday night. That's why I said we should have done this lecture yesterday, because there's many Thursday nights in this story. It's a Thursday night. He enters into it, and usually Thursday night Karbala, Imam Hussein's shrine is packed, as you know. He entered into the shrine of Imam Hussein. He saw that it was completely empty. Completely empty. Maybe 3 or 4 people were there. And they were only the servants of the shrine, the workers of the shrine. He's shocked. It should be completely packed. I shouldn't be able to get so close. So he asked one of those servants, why is no one here? The reply comes, because Imam Hussein himself has left. He's left his shrine. He's gone somewhere else. He's thinking, where would the Imam go? The reply comes, he's gone to visit his brother Abu al-Fadl Abbas. He quickly goes. He goes to Abu al-Fadl Abbas' shrine. He sees it's packed. Because of course, we have one problem when we go to Karbala. When we're there, we can't be there. When we're visiting Imam Hussein, we can't be at Hazrat Abbas. Here, they were both together. So people were packing in. He says, the poet says, when I entered, I saw my Imam is standing in front of the shrine of Abbas, and he is reading the ziyarah of his brother. I went up to my Imam. Then I heard my Imam recite that same first line of poetry of my poem. He turns around to me. He says, why don't you recite this? I said, Ya Imam, I thought this was dishonoring you. He said, no, of course I required the help of Abu al-Fadl Abbas on the day of Ashura. We have not understood the maqam of Abu al-Fadl Abbas, neither have we understood, because we can't comprehend the maqam of Imam Hussein salamullah alayhi. Now, many people ask the question, who is greater, Musa or Abu al-Fadl Abbas? Nabi Isa Abu al-Fadl Abbas, Nabi Adam Abu al-Fadl Abbas? I won't answer that question. I'll tell you one thing, that the father of Abbas is Ali ibn Abi Talib. The brothers of Abbas is Hassan and Hussein. The sisters of Abbas are Zainab and Kulthum. Which other prophet can say that his father is Ali ibn Abi Talib and he has brothers like Imam Hassan and Imam Hussein? This is Abu al-Fadl Abbas. And this is the visitation of Imam Hussein and his great brother Abu al-Fadl Abbas salamullah alayhi. Haj Ali Baghdadi, after asking about the visitation of the shrine of Imam Hussein, they go forward. They're going to visit Kadhimain. They're continuing on their journey. He says, Ya Sayyid, can I ask another question? Look at the etiquette he has. We also need to understand that sometimes we just speak without asking permission. We just barge in. He respectfully asks, can I ask a question? Do you allow me? When he says yes, then he asks, do you allow me to ask a question? He says yes. A long time ago, Ya Sayyid, still he doesn't know that this is his Imam. A long time ago, Ya Sayyid, I went to visit Imam Ali Rida salamullahi alayhi in Mashhad. And we met there as an individual who lived in a small town near Najaf, an Iraqi individual. We became friends with him. So one day we asked him, how do you feel the land of Mashhad, the shrine of Imam Rida? He replied, for 15 days that I have been here, I'm eating from the rizq of Imam Rida. Then he says, and Munkar and Nakir in my grave will not be able to touch me. Ali Baghdadi, Haj Ali Baghdadi, he turns to the Sayyid, who's the Imam. He says, is this true? Again, the Imam says, yes, any individual who visits, what does he say? Who visits my grandfather. Still he doesn't realize, who visits my grandfather, Munkar and Nakir will not have the audacity to question him in the grave. And in fact, you find that the visitation of Imam Rida, salamullah alayhi, is such a great act. Visiting Imam Rida. For example, you find that Sikandar, Alexander the Great, when he was in the area of Mashhad, he fell asleep one day, he saw a dream. In his dream, he saw that there is a star which is falling down onto the area of Mashhad. He woke up, he went to an individual, he said, what is this dream? They told him that, look, one of the grandsons of the Prophet will be buried here. And so, what did he do? He cultivated land, he caused a garden to be made. Till today, that garden is found in Mashhad. Until today, you find there is a monument which Alexander the Great put in Mashhad, and he said that the Imam will be buried here. And because of that, Harun Rashid said, I want to be buried in Mashhad, because of what Alexander the Great did. The visitation of the shrine of Imam Rida is also an example of one of the visitations that we forgot, or we didn't give importance to, or we didn't realize how great it was. For example, there's a story narrated of a family. As we know in Iran, during the days of Eid, many individuals, they rush to Mashhad. Even Nowruz, the New Year, the Iranian New Year, they go to Mashhad or they go to Hazrat Ma'suma. There was one family, they were going towards Mashhad. They weren't a religious family. It was during the time of Eid, they weren't a religious family. They were going towards Mashhad. They entered into the holy city. They were there for about 3 days. They weren't religious. It was the time of Eid. They were in the party mood. So instead of going to visit the Imam, they went to restaurants, they went to theme parks, cinemas, etc. They were there for 3 days. Not once did they visit their Imam. Imagine. They were there for 3 days. Not once did they even go to visit their Imam and say, Assalamu alaikum ya Abul Hasan. As they were leaving, in the car was the husband, the wife, and the kids. The wife, as they were leaving, she sees the dome of the shrine, and she says something. She says, Ya Imam Rida, I thank you. I thank you for being so hospitable, for keeping us so well in Mashhad for these 3 days, for allowing us to come here. Then she says, farewell, Ya Imam. Salamu alaikum, Ya Imam. Goodbye. And they go. They haven't gone to see him, but she says, thank you for keeping us so well. We enjoyed our time here in Mashhad. As they were going, they reached Nishapur. I've mentioned Nishapur, I think, the 3rd time now. Nishapur, as we know, Shatita is buried there. There are footprints of the Imam Rida in Nishapur. When he was coming to Mashhad, he passed through that area. When they reached Nishapur, the woman was sleeping. She suddenly wakes up. She says, stop the car. Stop the car. She says, why? She says, we have to go back to Mashhad. So what do you mean? We just came from there. She says, if you don't let me go back to Mashhad, I will get out of the car and I'll walk. He's saying, why? We just came from there. She said, in my dream came my Imam. He said, I am happy. Look how generous your Imam is. He says, I am happy that you had a good time in my city. I am happy that I was able to be hospitable. Did they come to visit the Imam? No. He says, I am happy that you enjoyed. I am happy that you enjoyed your time here, and I also accept the farewell that you gave to me. The woman replies that we have to go back. What injustice have we done to the Imam by not going to visit him? They come back, tears are rolling down her cheeks. She says, Ya Imam, I'm sorry, because I haven't understood the maqam of your ziyarah. The maqam of the ziyarah of the Imam, we haven't understood. Now normally, there is a true story, but it's a bit funny. So just to lighten your moods, because you look very serious, I'll give you the quick story. It's a true story of Iran. As we know, in Islam, interest is haram. The only time I can take interest is when I have no other option. So for example, when I have to take a mortgage, because I have no other option, I have to take interest, I have to pay back interest, then I have to deal with it. However, I cannot take interest for no reason. And in Iran, the banks had a problem. The banks had this problem that because interest is haram and they have no interest, they were unable to get enough people to make a bank account in Iran. People weren't making bank accounts, they were taking their money, they were shoving it under their beds. The traditional way of doing things. So what the bank did is they decided that once a month, out of all of the people that have accounts with them, they would give one a Mercedes-Benz. This is a true story. And Mercedes-Benz in Iran today is a sign that you've done very well. There was one man, he was a poor man. He lived in Qom. He said, look, he told his wife, I want that Mercedes-Benz. It's a true story, I'm not making it up. He says, I want that Mercedes-Benz. I am currently going through the same door. He says, I want that Mercedes-Benz. So she says, okay. So he says, I'll have a minute that we'll hold the majlis of Imam Rida in our house, so that inshallah I can get that Merc, I can get that car. That month they hold the majlis, there's no car. He says, Ya Imam Rida, I am upset, but I still believe and have faith in you. So what I'll do is for next month, I will visit you in your shrine. So next month comes, he goes to visit Imam Rida in his shrine in Mashhad. He goes from Qum to Mashhad. Still that month, no Merc, no Mercedes-Benz. He realizes that the Imam drives a very hard bargain. So he says, in the third month, what I will do is I'll walk from Qum all the way to Mashhad. The Imam will have to give it to me now. This is a true story. He walks from Qum all the way to Mashhad. He's so tired that he doesn't even enter into the shrine. He falls asleep in the courtyard. When he falls asleep, who does he see? The Imam. The Imam says, we love you. We want to give you that car. But Baba, open a bank account first in the bank, then we can give you the car. In other words, this individual, he wanted the Mercedes, he didn't open the bank account. Now, I can take many different points from that story. However, we understand that the ziyarah of Imam Rida is something else. The ziyarah of Imam Rida is beautiful. Haj Ali Baghdadi asks the Imam, the Sayyid, Ya Sayyid, is it true that those individuals that visit Imam Rida will not be questioned in the grave? He says, yes, it's true. Then they are walking. He says in the narration that as we were walking, there were two ways to get to Kadhimain. I said, Ya Sayyid, let's take this way. He said, no, let's take this way. Let's take the other way. During the other way, there were different plots of land. I saw one plot of land. I said, Ya Sayyid, do you know about this plot of land? It's of Haji something. Of a Haji. Haji Mirza maybe, Haji Mir. You know this plot of land? Is it true that this plot of land is from the inheritance of Imam Musa al-Kadhim salamullah alayhi? Allahumma salli ala. Is it true that the plot of land over there of Haji Mirza is from the line of Imam al-Kadhim? The Imam replies, Oh Ali Baghdadi, this is nothing to do with you, stay out of it. The Imam says the same thing to us. We as individuals sometimes try to find out about everything. We are nosy in our lives. What's his bank account? What's his PIN number? What's his blood type? Everything. We are very nosy. The Imam here tells us, stay out of it if it's nothing to do with you. Then they are walking. As they are walking, they suddenly come in front of the shrine of Imamain al-Kadhimain. And they enter. As they enter, the Imam turns to Ali al-Baghdadi. He says, will you recite the du'as? He says, Sayyid, I can't recite. He says, fine, I'll recite it for you. So the Imam recites the du'as in front of Ali al-Baghdadi. Then the Imam says, will you not also send salutations to the Imam of your time? He says, of course, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Saleh. As he says that, the Imam says, wa alaykum assalam, and he smiles. Haj Ali Baghdadi still doesn't realize what's going on. He's still confused. They say they enter into the shrine. As they enter into the shrine, he says, will you recite this, O Ali Baghdadi? He says, Ya Sayyid, I can't recite. He said, fine, I'll recite. He recites Ziyarat Aminullah. He recites many supplications. Then he turns to Ali al-Baghdadi. He says, should we go do the congregation prayers now? He says, yes. Yeah, Sayyid, let's go to do the congregation prayers. They go, they do Salatul Jama'ah. The Imam, according to Ali Baghdadi, was standing. He was doing Farada, of course. He was standing next to the Imam of Jama'ah. We need to ponder. How do we not know that the Imam is also standing next to us when we are in Salatul Jama'ah? He does Farada, of course. Who has the audacity to lead in front of Imam al-Zaman? However, we also need to think he may be next to us. He may be sitting here. If we realize that the Imam is everywhere, would we do certain things? Would we do ghaibah? Would we lie? Would we abuse others? No. If we knew that the Imam was there, we would do none of these things. Haj Ali Baghdadi says, after we finished the salah, I was looking for him. I went to the place where we put our shoes. I realized that he was gone. As he vanished, it suddenly clicked that individual was none other than the Imam of our time. Because, number one, he smiled when I said to him, Assalamu alayka ya Aba Saleh. He also replied. He said that his representatives were the ulama. I realized that mole on his face was his recognition. That green turban was his recognition. And I was so sad, Ya Imam, I could not benefit from you even more. This whole narration of Ali al-Baghdadi, which we've covered in about 45 minutes, has so many different lessons for us to learn. Whether it be the lesson of Khums, whether it be the lesson of understanding the wilayah of Amir al-Mu'mineen, whether it be the lesson of understanding the ziyarah of Imam Hussein and Imam Rida salamullahi alayhim. And we need to understand this, that when you read, and inshallah you will read, all of these narrations, it will help you to understand the Imam when he comes. For as I mentioned yesterday, recognition requires you to have a previous description of the Imam. This is giving you the previous description. This is telling you who your Imam is. This is telling you what are the characteristics of your Imam, what the Imam wants from you. The Imam doesn't want that you be nosy, that you go into other people's affairs. The Imam wants that whatever he tells you to do, you accept. And it is this Imam that I've been mentioning, as mentioned in Dua Nudba, that he is the avenger of what? The avenger of Karbala. As we understand, and as I mentioned in the lecture about Abu al-Fadl Abbas salamullah alayhi, when Imam Sajjad was burying the Shuhada of Karbala, because as we know, he was transported miraculously to Karbala, even though he was in chains, he was transported to bury Imam Hussein, Abu al-Fadl Abbas, etc. There was one body for which he had to take a large sheet because there were so many different body parts. There was one body for which he had to take a sheet and gather all of the body parts. And that was the body of Abu al-Fadl Abbas. That was the body of Abu al-Fadl Abbas, and you find that when he would sit on a horse, as we know, his feet would touch the ground. But when they looked at his qabr, when they looked at his grave, it was smaller than the grave of a child. Why? Because Abu al-Fadl Abbas, his hands were cut. Because Abu al-Fadl Abbas, his head was cut. And they say within the Masa'ib that on 2 occasions did certain individuals say, Al-an inkasara dhahri, that now my back has broken. 2 different people. Who was the first? That when Amirul Mu'mineen buries his wife, Fatima Zahra, after the door is crushed on her body, when Amirul Mu'mineen buries his wife, what does he say? He says, Al-ayan kasur dhari. Now my back has broken. Now that you have gone, oh Fatimatul Zahra. Now my back has broken. Now that you have gone, oh Sayyidatul Nisa, the lion of Allah is now weak. The second occasion when someone said that line was when Imam Hussein sees his brother Abu al-Fadl Abbas fall on the ground, and Abu al-Fadl Abbas says, Alayka min salam, to you my last salam, oh my master. Imam Hussein says, Al-an inkasur dhari. Now my back has broken, that you have gone, Abbas. Now there is no one left to be the standard bearer of my army. They say that the head of Abu al-Fadl Abbas acted very strangely when they were traveling. When traveling from Karbala to Kufa, from Kufa to Sham, for on the spears was the head of Hussein, on the spears was the head of Ali al-Akbar, on the spears was also the head of Ali al-Asghar. But Abu al-Fadl Abbas's head would not go on the spears. The head of Abu al-Fadl Abbas would not go on the spears. Rather, they had to tie the head of Abu al-Fadl Abbas next to a horse. When Imam al-Sajjad asks, oh my uncle, why does your head not go on the spear? He replies, if my head was to go on the spear, then I would see my sister Zainab al-Kulthum, then I would see Sakina, and I cannot bear to see the women of my family without hijab. When the caravan enters into Kufa, as we know, the caravan is stopped in central Kufa. The caravan is stopped in central Kufa. What do they say? They say, we want the daughters of the Prophet to be seen by every single na-mahram. We want the daughters of the Prophet to be seen by every single na-mahram in Kufa. We want people to laugh at them. We want people to ridicule them. So what had happened was that many women were standing on the balconies. They were looking down and laughing at the women of Rasulullah. There is one old woman. She is confused. She doesn't know what's going on. What did she say? She said, I saw a kafila. I saw a caravan with old women standing with their bags bent. I saw a caravan with these women in chains. There was one old woman, her back was bent, grey hairs were covering her face. Next to her was a small young girl whose ears had blood on them, whose cheeks had the marks as if they had been slapped, whose lips and tongue were very dry. I heard this young girl say to the older woman, will we not get water now? Will we not get water now? As I heard this, I ran down to those women. I had a glass of cold water. I said to that young girl, before you drink this water, do dua for me. She said, what dua? The first dua that you do for me is that my children never are in the state of you. My children never have to be paraded without hijab. She says, okay, what's the second dua? She says, the second dua is that I am old. Allow me, do dua for me that I am able to go to Medina. She says, why do you want to go to Medina? Why is it that you want to go to Medina? The reply comes, I want to see Hussein. I want to see the father of Hussein. Zainab replies, Ali has died. What do you want to go for? She says, I want to see Hussein. I want to see Zainab. Zainab looks around. She sees there is no mahram present. She takes the hair off her face. She says, Ana Zainab bint Ali. I am Zainab, the daughter of Ali. We started with the Masa'ib of Abbas. We end with the Masa'ib of Abbas. This woman, what does she cry out? Her first question to Zainab, Aina Abbas? Where is Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? How does Zainab tell her that the right hand of Abbas was first cut, then the second, the left hand of Abbas was cut? How does Zainab tell her that the head of Abbas is here in Kufa? How does Zainab tell her that one eye of Abbas has been pierced with the arrow? How does Zainab tell her that blood is flowing from the eyes of Abbas? Maybe Zainab said, Wa Abbas, Wa Abbas, after me, after you, they put us in chains. Wa Abbas, after you, they set our tents on fire. ألا لعنة الله على القوم الظالمين وسيعلم الذين ظلموا أي منقلب ينقلبون. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. اللهم اغفر للمؤمنين والمؤمنات والمسلمين والمسلمات الأحياء منهم والأموات.
تابع بيننا وبينهم بالخيرات، إنك مجيب الدعوات، إنك رافع الدرجات، إنك ولي الحسنات، إنك سامع الأصوات. اللهم اجعلنا لنعمائك من الشاكرين والآلائك من الذاكرين. اللهم ارزقنا في الدنيا زيارة الحسين، وفي الآخرة شفاعة الحسين. وصلى الله على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وآله وسلم.
يا حسين يا حسين.